From sexual symbols to bleached burgers, here are 10 of McDonald's darkest secrets. Number 10. McLibel. McDonald's put a spotlight on its own secrets when it took two British activists to court in the famous McLibel case. Helen and Dave Morris were members of a group called London Greenpeace. In 1986, they published What's Wrong with McDonald's, a document which alleged various bad practices. The most serious allegation was that McDonald's was destroying the rainforests in order to get to their beef. McDonald's decided to try and sue Steele and Morris in a high-profile case that lasted 2 years. McLibel became one for the record books, running from 1994 to 1996. McDonald's was using a legal approach known as SLAP, which stands for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. Great acronym, right? This relies on the public being too intimidated by a big corporate entity to take them on. Steele and Morris weren't prepared to back down, so the case went ahead. The result was a public relations nightmare for McDonald's. The ruling only went partly in their favor, with the judge ruling some of the activists' claim as true. While Steele and Morris had to pay £40,000, their opponents coughed up £10 million in costs. After all the negative attention they received, the Burgermeisters must have wondered if it was all worth it. Number 9. Game over. One of McDonald's great marketing schemes was to mix their brand with some of the world's best game franchises. Monopoly and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire were just two of the games diners could play as they munched on their burger and fries. But there was a dark secret going on behind the scenes that put a bitter taste in people's mouths. Jerome Jacobson worked in security at the LA firm Simon Marketing Inc. He had access to the winning game pieces used by McDonald's, some of which had prizes as great as $1 million. Working in cahoots with a close network of contacts, he sent the pieces to his friends. Once they'd claimed their ill-gotten gains, Jacobson got a cut. This devious operation took place across several states. Unfortunately for Jacobson, a whistleblower tipped off the FBI. They launched the amusingly titled Operation Final Answer, which lifted the lid on the whole sorry scam. See, the FBI does have a sense of humor. 8 were charged with defrauding McDonald's, and Simon Marketing Inc. lost their contract, ending a 25-year history with the Golden Arches. Guess they should have phoned a friend and not be so greedy. And now for some bleached burgers. But first, if you are new here, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on the latest videos. And let us know how often you eat at McDonald's in the comments below. Don't worry, we won't judge. Number 8. Bleached burgers. McDonald's has to produce millions of meals for the consumer every day, and quickly. They don't call it fast food for nothing. However, in their scramble to get burgers into the mouths of hungry customers, the company used an ingredient that was icky in the extreme. Some call it ground beef. Others refer to it in more direct terms, pink slime. This stuff may look like ice cream, but it's actually beef. Yes, it is possible for beef to look like that. How is it possible? Well, it's a highly processed form of beef trimmings. Sounds tasty, doesn't it? These trimmings are made up of leftovers, and I'm not talking prime rib here. In fact, I'm not even sure what I'm talking about, since what's actually in it is extremely vague. The leftovers are soaked in ammonium hydroxide. You'll find it in many household cleaning products, though I doubt you'd want to be eating it on purpose. After taking a chemical bath, the quote-unquote meat is then turned into delicious burgers. A reported 70% of the USA's ground beef is produced this way. McDonald's came under pressure to stop using pink slime in the States, and thankfully they decided to give up the goop, as far as we know. Maybe it's harmless, but it's pretty horrible. Number 7. Food that lasts forever. Most of you probably don't go to McDonald's for the healthy eating. No one is under any illusions about that. But did you know that you can leave a burger out for weeks and it never goes bad? There's even a blogger who carries a sandwich she bought back in 1996. She uses it to frighten kids away from processed food. That's food for thought, right? As you can imagine, McDonald's hates to hear about this. It looks like their product is laden with preservatives, keeping things mold-free for longer than normal food. It's easy to see things like that, but is it really the truth? One chef thought he'd put the theory to the test in an experiment. J. Kenji Lopez Alt cooked 9 different burger patties, including ones from McDonald's. These were prepared according to different factors such as salt content, contamination, and moisture. He then left them out for nearly a month. What he discovered was the McDonald's patties were in showroom condition, but so were some of the others he made. His conclusion was that the lack of moisture in McDonald's burgers meant they dried out quicker than nature could catch up with them. This doesn't mean their food is more processed and unhealthy than others, and this doesn't mean the fact that they don't rot isn't sinister. However, it casts an interesting light on a truly bizarre secret. Number 6. Expired meat scandal. In 2014, McDonald's was being talked about for all the wrong reasons. Its Chinese operation was exposed as a source of tainted meat. At the Shanghai Huzi Foods processing factory, a video was leaked which revealed food safety standards had taken a nosedive. Not wearing gloves wasn't the only violation committed by the factory workers. They thought picking up meat that had been on the floor and packaging it was a great business idea. It gets worse. Some of the meat had reportedly gone bad, and the firm was using fake expiration dates to cover their tracks. The release of the video exposed a wide-ranging tainted meat scandal, which appeared to be connected to Huzi Foods' U.S. partner, OSI Group. McDonald's has used OSI for over 20 years and didn't do themselves any favors sticking by the company as the media storm raged over their heads. This was despite other companies backing away from OSI, such as Burger King and Papa John's. When authorities entered the scene of the crime, they found thousands of cases of tainted meat, much of which had been distributed to McDonald's 2,000 Chinese branches. The whole deal stank to high heaven, quite literally, and was an epic breach of consumer trust. Number 5. Lusty Logo. Have you ever looked at the golden arches and felt hungry, but also a little aroused? If you have, then don't worry, you aren't a twisted freak. It turns out the famous logo used by McDonald's for decades was designed to appeal to the male population. The 1960s logo was the work of psychologist Louis Cheskin and was supposed to have a sexual meaning. He reasoned that if the arches resembled a pair of upside-down breasts, then customers couldn't help but be drawn to the company's nurturing bosom. Get it? See, it's all been studied. Picture all those glowing logos around the world, and you have something that borders on the pornographic. Of course, women and children eat at McDonald's too, so it isn't all geared toward the boys' market. I mean, it's not Hooters. The tasty food and speedy service play their part in the firm's $25 billion a year revenue. And maybe you hadn't even noticed it before, but you can't help but feel guys have been used in some shadowy corporate experiment. Number 4. Unhealthy profit. In recent years, you've probably noticed a change in the menu at your local McDonald's. Alongside cheeseburgers and milkshakes, you also see apple slices and salads. These are a high-profile attempt by McDonald's to distance itself from an unhealthy image. They've also changed a lot of their packaging so that it's green and looks more environmentally healthy. Unfortunately, they're replacing fatty foods with other stuff that's also bad for you. A Chipotle barbecue snack wrap, for example, is very tasty and supposedly a healthier option. It contains 16 grams of protein, which sounds pretty good. At 250 calories, it's kind to your waistline. When you check the sodium levels, on the other hand, it's a different story. 670 milligrams is the not-so-magic number here. To put it in perspective, that's 28% of all the sodium you'll need in one day, and you're getting it from something billed as a snack. The tortilla it comes in isn't made from whole grains. Instead, McDonald's uses enriched flour. Elements such as niacin and iron are present in enriched flour, which impact on the healthy grains. Nutrition then becomes secondary to the fast food process. So while it's nice to see McDonald's making an effort, what they're selling is arguably a step up rather than a leap forward. Number 3. Chemical content. It won't come as a surprise for you to hear processed food contains a lot of chemicals, but it's worth giving you a rundown of what's in the goodies you're eating. McDonald's fries are known for containing acrylamide. It's present in any food that's fried. The longer it's fried for, the greater the risk. Acrylamide has been frowned upon by the National Toxicology Program and made the cut on the Proposition 65 list. This famous list keeps an eye out for any harmful substances that could potentially cause cancer or birth defects. McNuggets have a preservative called THBQ. It's an ingredient that is also in cosmetics and is petroleum-based. If you're thinking that doesn't sound so bad, then wait till you hear what's in the batter. Sodium aluminum phosphate is an ingredient which some argue is linked to Alzheimer's. Drinks and sauces at McDonald's contain sodium benzoate. When you mix that up with food coloring, you have every parent's worst nightmare, a hyperactive child. So when you get a Happy Meal, you're not guaranteed to be happy at the end of it. Number 2. Animal cruelty. One of McDonald's darkest secrets came to light thanks to a campaign by PETA, the animal rights organization. PETA stands for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. 20 years ago, they highlighted the shocking methods being used to breed chickens for McDonald's. Not only were they kept in teeny tiny cages, but they accelerated the growth of birds and fattened them up with hormones which triggered organ failure among other conditions. Plus, we're eating all of that later. When the chickens were killed, it was a harrowing sight. The poor birds were hung upside down before having their throats cut. Some chickens were still alive when they went to have their feathers scalded off. It was a chilling situation and one that continues to this day. The good news is that McDonald's has finally agreed to change its ways. The bad news is that this won't happen until 2024. To add further insult, the new regulations won't apply to 30% of the company's suppliers. It's a disappointing compromise, but one we'll have to live with for the time being. Number 1. Crispy head, anyone? Virginia resident Catherine Ortega found a fried chicken head in her box of McDonald's Mighty Wings. The Mighty Wings idea didn't take off, by the way, but they are known for featuring in this bizarre and gruesome story, which is about the ultimate surprise ingredient. While McDonald's hoped the discovery of a bird head in their wings would stay secret, that just wasn't going to happen. Despite the offer of a refund, the incident received heavy media coverage. In fact, it was so sensational that opinion is divided over whether the horrific find was genuine or a hoax. Some argue the head was in too good a condition to be believable. They also highlight the fact a lawsuit was talked about but not followed through. Others say the breadcrumb coating was a match for McDonald's coating, and that the photos and videos taken were conclusive. We'll probably never know, but one thing's for sure, as secrets go, that discovery was pretty dark. Thanks for watching! Anybody else hungry right now? Be sure to subscribe before you leave, and I'll see you next time. Bye!